This story is just such a load of shit. This is the waterline for a laden ship. So basically what you would expect is you're not going to send a ship from Lagos in West Africa to Brazil unless the ship has cargo. Because to send a ship on a very, very long journey, fully crewed with all the emissions, global emissions, is extremely expensive, and there are plenty of cargo to be had in Africa that can be taken to South America, or if there's no cargo in Nigeria, the ship could be sent to Ghana or some other West African location, or even to Europe to collect cargo before it makes the crossing. But ships are always the routes of ships are always designed specifically, and unless it's going to a breaker's yard or something. But this ship is built in 2009. I've done some research in this. Normally this rudder would be underwater, okay? So exactly what the ship was doing in Lagos, I mean, it is conceivable that the ship went to Lagos with cargo, unloaded the cargo, and then sailed empty somewhere else. This might explain this. But look, this guy's sitting on the rudder. I mean, this is just propaganda. And look, here we have a life belt. I mean, somebody threw it in. This is all a lot of bollocks. Look, I mean, you've got to understand, they like to make these sentimental stories. If you recall, a few years ago, there was a picture of what was, in fact, a doll, hyper-realistic doll. They can make dolls look extremely real. And it was on the beach in Turkey, and we were supposed to feel very sorry for these poor people who wanted a better life, and they were going to get it at our expense, right? I don't understand what these Nigerians think. They've got their independence. Yes, their country's corrupt, I know that. And I don't blame them for that, because the vast majority of people have no way to stop their corrupt government, right? It's very difficult as an individual to make any difference at all. I've tried. I would never be allowed into politics, because I'm basically a decent guy. So here we have this ridiculous life belt that somebody has thrown in just for thing. And now we have, anyway, let's look at this. Monrovia. Now, does this guy really look like he spent 2 weeks in that hole?
We're the federal police. We are here to help you, okay?
Hold on. That's the Ken wave. It's in Iran at the moment. I've done a bit of research. Its average speed would be about 20 miles per hour or 16 knots as it went across. I mean, this is, sorry, I've been doing some random research about boats. Let me see if I can find. Here we have another picture. This is good. This is the Ken wave. But have you noticed anything? Look at the rudder. It's under the water, right? It's under the water. Now this would be a ship that's reasonably laden, I would have thought. It's not at the maximum waterline. The waterline would depend upon the kind of time of year, I presume the type of cargo, because some cargoes can shift. And the waterline would also depend upon whether it's seawater or freshwater. I think the ships that sail across the Great Lakes, because they sail, I mean, seawater is more dense than freshwater. So the ships that sail across the Great Lakes, for example, which is freshwater, would have a different draft than the ships that sail across the ocean. Seas in themselves have different salinity. For example, the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea are much less salty than the Mediterranean or the Red Sea or the oceans. So that's also a factor that needs to be considered. I'm clearly not a ship's expert, but in this picture at least you can see very clearly that the rudder is under the water, and in fact rudders best function underwater. You don't really want a rudder that's 90% out of the water. Rudders have to work under the water to be effective. If you look at this picture here, you can see that most of the rudder, or part of the rudder at least, is above. So this ship is unladen. So I don't think it's logical to assume that an unladen ship would sail from Lagos, Nigeria to Brazil unladen. And here we've got a guy, and there's even someone on the boat pretending to rescue them with some chocolates and so on. They don't want fucking water and chocolates. They want to get off the fucking boat. You know, do you think these guys would just calmly take some bloody chocolate and water after being there for 2 weeks? What are they eating? Only canned food would be acceptable. So, although they'd probably, you know, they'd be hungry, but in particular they'd be incredibly thirsty. And they'd be absolutely caked in salt. Crossing the Atlantic. Crossing the Atlantic in this incredibly noisy environment. And we were told that they were like laying on some sort of hammocks that had been put there by previous people, right, or something like that. Can you see any hammocks? It's all bullshit, and the public believe it because they like stories. They like stories. They don't care if it's true or not.
Ben, have you got you do know how to swim?
Look, and it's giving him water. And look, and funny enough, there's 2 people in there who haven't moved. Look, there's some. I mean, come on. I mean, what is this fucking thing? What's in Sunday's newspaper? I really wish they wouldn't do that. You're trying to watch one video and they send you, look, do these guys look as if they've been 2 weeks? It's put there. I mean, I don't even know if this could be Photoshop. What is going on? Do these guys look as if they spent 14 days in there crossing the fucking Atlantic? And the answer is no, they don't. This is just an act. All right?
So,
look, they've got some water there.
take some water. I will get the light fast now. Okay?
I mean, honestly, I mean, what people will believe is just ridiculous. Water. The police would not just leave them there. The police would immediately arrest them, and you know, even if this story was true, they would be immediately taken down and taken to a safe place where they could be allowed to recover, because they would be incredibly dehydrated, incredibly tired. They wouldn't just accept a bottle of fucking water, would they? Where are they going to sleep? 4 people? 4 grown men there across the Atlantic in that incredible noise with all the fucking salt spray and water. I mean, they should be drowned. They should have been washed away. And it just so happens that the boat has absolutely no cargo, which makes this story at least potentially true, right? Yes, we do have stowaways. The guys apparently didn't even realise where this fucking ship was going, which is bloody ridiculous. What is the point of stowing away on a boat unless you're absolutely certain where it's going? They were trying to get to Europe, of course, isn't everybody, or America, and they ended up in Brazil. Funny enough, we have lots of people from Brazil who don't want to stay there either. They've got corrupt government and they've got corrupt election systems, but that's common. We all know, and most people accept, that places in Africa, for example, or North Korea, have corrupt election systems whereby there's a lot of vote rigging of various kinds, but people don't realise that that's also common in the West. Most people don't understand that. For example, the people who don't like Trump are angry with him because Trump is suggesting vote fraud. But there was vote fraud in America. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like or dislike Trump. It doesn't matter. Vote fraud is very, very common now. And of course, you don't need to rig every vote to get the result you want. All you need to do is deal with a few percentage points. And of course, since a lot of voting is electronic and they allow illegal immigrants to vote, and then we've got postal votes and everything, the opportunities for scamming are enormous. So I think it can be said very clearly that there's no democracy in the world that I'm aware of. But these guys did not come across the Atlantic like that. Apparently they was in Lagos Harbour for 15 hours waiting for the boat to depart, right? I mean, you know, and then you know, this is a nonsense. Can you see any hammocks there or anything like that? And would you just allow somebody to... 3,500 miles. They've been 3,500 miles on the boat, and
we're here to help you, okay?
we're here to help you, okay?
Do you have food and water? Okay, I will get.
Do you have food and water? I mean, come on. He's not talking to these people. I mean, you just get a couple of Africans dressed in shabby clothes and stick them on the rudder. They might not even be Africans, they could be Brazilians. There's a lot of black people in Brazil. They could just give them some fucking clothes from the charity shop, rub them in the earth for half an hour, and then get them to sit on a hull, right? This is a load of bollocks, all right? And why was there a, you know, a lifeboat? Look there, they had a lifebuoy. What's going on? They hid in the tiny space.
Police, we are here to help you, okay? Do you have food and water?
And look, so the people, so, you know, I mean, if you'd come across the Atlantic like that for a 14-day trip, okay, with 15 hours in port before you left, you wouldn't be in the mood to just be given a bottle of water. You'd be off that bloody rudder like a fucking shot, assuming you wouldn't be dead. It's not true, this story. It's just a lie. They do it all the time. They do it with so many things. People don't need, if there's a story that people like the sound of, they, you know, then they will go along with it. It doesn't have to be true. People like the sound of this story because it shows heroic refugees risking everything to get a better life. And all of us are sympathetic, in theory at least, to the requirements of people to get a better life. But the problem is, one person to get a better life is another person to get a worse life. And I would say that overall, massive immigration to the UK has made the lives of local people worse. We have higher crime, we have more a burden on the healthcare and the education system and the housing stock, require more energy, require more food imports. It's not good for our balance of payments because a lot of money gets sent overseas, or they use it to purchase overseas products which they understandably want. Now, are you telling me that, and of course it's all being photographed, so we're not supposed to ask, what's the purpose of all this? Now, as I said,
okay, I will get first some water and some chocolate for you. Then I will get you. Do you know how to swim?
come on.
So,
Thank you. And what about these two people there in the back? What are they doing?
take some water. I will get the life vest now. Okay?
Yeah, so that's right. They're going to leave them there with some fucking water. And didn't the other guys? I mean, if you hadn't had water for 2 weeks or whatever it is, I mean, how much water would 4 men need for a 14-day journey? Right? I mean, they would, especially in that salty environment. And I don't know what the temperature would be like. I mean, obviously the Atlantic between Nigeria and Brazil, it's warm water, but they would be soaked by spray. They would be soaked by spray, and they would probably get hypothermia. You don't actually need, even at 25 centigrade, for example, if you're wet, you evaporate, and you would be very cooled down. Your body temperature is 38, the water temperature would be 25, but you'd constantly be wet, and you'd be evaporating. If you wear a wet t-shirt, you get cold, even in a warm, because of the evaporation. So, I mean, honestly, I really wish